plant our dahlia tubers, we look at the size of the tuber and then decide which container we'll plant them in. We've got 3 sizes of containers. This is, I think, maybe a gallon or a gallon and a half, I don't know. This is, I think, a half gallon, and then I'm not sure, this is just a small 3 or 4 inch pot. Most tubers will come as a single tuber when you get them. And so these are easy to plant. This one, you always want to make sure the eye of the tuber, which is right here, is facing up when you plant it. And you can either plant it straight down into the pot like this, just plant it down in and fill it with dirt around it, or you can plant it on its side and have the eye facing up that way as well. When we pot them up, we'll leave the neck sticking out, and that's just so that if there's extra eyes, I can take a cutting. Usually I like to have anywhere from 1 to 3 eyes on a tuber. If there's more than that, I might cut one. And then when we plant it in the ground, we do actually plant the whole thing, the neck and everything, at least 2 inches below the surface of the soil. Like, make sure those are good and covered. So this is a little bit bigger of a tuber. It wouldn't fit in here just because it's pretty tall. So I'll put it in a size like this, and those are the eyes there. So I'm gonna just kind of bury it at an angle, and I would cover it like that. And then those shoots can come up through there. So all you really need is a single tuber, but we're doing some experiments this year. We left a couple of clumps, like 3 dahlia tubers on a clump, just to see if they do produce better than a single tuber. So something like this needs a little bit wider of a pot. And so we'll just put it down in there. I'd cover it with a little bit of soil then. To cover it, I'd probably do something like that. I like so that the sprouts can still stick out a little bit. All right, so when I water them in, I actually don't give them just a lot of water to start with. So like, I'll just water them in a little bit, let them dry out. And then between waterings, you want to completely let your soil dry out until the sprouts are maybe 8-12 inches tall. And then they'll need a lot more water at a time. And you have to make sure they have plenty of water or they'll start drooping and things like that. You let it dry out in between waterings so that the tubers don't rot. If they're too wet, we've discovered, much to our chagrin, we've killed quite a few tubers over the years, but you get them too wet, and if the soil doesn't dry out, then the tuber is just gonna rot. You actually don't really need that much water when they're starting. All right, so we always like to label our plants just because, you know, you're never gonna remember, unless you only have one kind, I guess. But we'll just write it on a little tag with a Sharpie and stick it in there. And then this label also goes in when we plant them in the ground, we'll put that right in beside it. And then later we'll go through and make a chart yet too of where everything was planted. So we know when we dig them up in the fall, what kind we have here. So one unique thing about dahlias is that you can kind of tell by the tuber what dahlia it is. We've grown a number of them for a couple of years. Cafe was our first one, and I think I could just smell a cafe tuber and tell you it's a cafe, because they smell sort of like celery. I don't know, I like the smell. We have a lot of jowies, so Jowie Morella, Jowie Winnie, and they both have these just spindly little tubers. Now this one I don't think has an eye, but I'd love to pot it up and just see if it does anything. So the fun thing with tubers is you can plant one tuber like this, and by the end of the summer you'll probably have another 5 or 6 tubers on the same clump. Now, not all of those tubers will have an eye, but you know, most of them might. And so you can store your dahlias over winter and then divide them either in the winter or in the spring and have a whole lot more for your garden. So this is how we stake our dahlias. Now nothing's planted here, but we thought we'd just show you now just in case we don't have time to make a video later when we're planting our dahlias. We'll put T-stakes in on either end of the bed, and then about every 8 to 10 feet down the bed as well. And then we'll put cross pieces on, and our netting gets attached to that and to the T-stakes. And we do 2 layers. We have a lot of wind here. Most of our dahlias need 2 layers, anything that's, you know, 3 feet or actually 4 feet or higher. And it helps, the 2 layers help a lot with just stabilizing the dahlia when you have a storm or a bunch of wind come through.